Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm pissed off. You want to know why? Because I think I've just watched one of the most insulting sequels I've ever witnessed in my life. And this took place right after one of the best sequels of all time. This is what we followed up with. God, I can't even say the name of this movie. The name of this movie just pisses me off. Fine, but the movie's called Alien 3. Yep, that movie. This film is set right after the events of Aliens. Ripley and an alien organism are apparently the only survivors of the colonial marine spaceship Sulaco following an escape pod's crash on a planet housing a penal colony populated by violent male inmates. Wow. Just fucking wow. Talk about one of the most insulting sequels ever. I can see why this is one of Rambo Raffarlife's most disliked sequels as well as one of his most disliked films in general. The fact they had the nerve to continue on from the ending of Aliens is just pure lazy at its best. Not only that, there's more problems with this goddamn movie. The film faced problems during production, including shooting without a script, and various screenwriters and directors were attached. Fincher, in his feature directional debut, who would thankfully make better movies after this, was brought in to direct after a proposed version with Vincent Ward as director was cancelled during pre-production. Seriously, all these troubles were a warning sign that Fox should not have been making this movie at all. Aliens was a beautiful end to the story, and there was nowhere else to go. But Fox decided to be such dumbasses and make the movie anyway because they only cared about that sweet moolah they earned with the first two. Even David Fincher himself hated this movie and straight up disowned it. Anyway, here are the major reasons why the sequel should have never existed. Obviously with bad qualities. This is completely inferior to what made the first two Alien movies so great. In fact, it feels different when tons of boring and unintentional comedy scenes and ego trips throughout the movie to the point where it doesn't feel like an Alien movie. It has no huge amount of charm to heart from the first two films, whatever can exist. It even suffered, like I said, through a troubled production throughout the years before it was released. It was even shot without a script. Some various screenwriters and directors declined the offers or had their ideas thrown away. It was supposed to be Ripley by herself and Arceon, the one planet with xenomorphs. However, twice proposed script was rejected and was followed by the first draft of what would become the final shooting script. So Archeon was replaced with the prison planet in the final version of the movie. Sigourney Weaver went on a massive ego trip causing most of the production problems, particularly with the screenplay. The movie originally had a big emphasis on weapons just like the previous film, but Weaver joined an anti-gun organization shortly after the release of Aliens, so the script had to be rewritten to get her back. Weaver is also the one who's responsible for Ripley getting killed off in this series. I'll get to that in a little bit. And being the one who demanded that have happen to her character. Nothing in the movie has the same power as the first two movies, and the worst thing is the scare factor is far below than that of its predecessors. In fact, this movie feels like a comedy talk show with people who got picked up from a street than being a scary blockbuster sci-fi movie. Most of the character development of the prisoners on the Fiona 161 is terrible. Even some parts of the soundtrack keep getting cutting out one after another. There's even tons of plot holes in this abomination of a sequel. For example, how did the alien make appear on the Sulaco at the beginning of the film if all the aliens and aliens were wiped out or killed? Ripley quickly jumping to suicide and to avoid Chestbuster's birth seems kind of far-fetched to add to the drama. And speaking of which, how did Ripley even get a chestburster inside, even though she wasn't caught by the facehugger from the first two movies? For no reason. Almost none of the scenes have enough suspense, scary moments, or any fun moments throughout the entire film. Instead, it has campy and boring moments, which were mainly caused by an unfinished script. The whole movie is very predictable. You can already get that Xenomorph runner is on a prison planet right before the prisoners meet their deaths by that Xenomorph. It's an awful treatment of the characters from the previous films too, and Newt and Hicks, two of the most beloved characters from the previous film. You're gonna hate this if you have not seen the first two, so spoilers! Die! In the crash! Landing! On Fiona 161. For no fucking reason. Nope. This is just done so this movie can have a plot, and it has so that they can give, so people can give the writers or executives can give this movie a reason to still be made anyway. Congratulations, you just made the ending of Aliens pointless. Way to go, Fox. Ripley even starts to become quite an unlikable character. Unlike the badass she was in the first two, she is such a wimp throughout this movie. All she does is yell, whine, scream. She doesn't even try to kick the alien's ass. Whenever she sees an alien, she just hides in fear or just whimpers behind a wall in one of the most iconic, in one of the most overrated shots ever. So she does nothing most of this movie, and she doesn't even provide any use to the characters. She's no longer the badass she is in the first two, and now she's just a coward. And it was caused by Sigourney Weaver's massive ego trip. The pacing is a bit too slow, which is extremely excusable for a horror action sci-fi film. The film keeps dragging or padding on that makes the whole film feel even longer than it actually is, to the point that it might make you fall asleep in the middle of near the final moments of the film. As if the franchise never really cared about the scare factor stuff anymore. It's a false advertising too. In the teaser, the narrator states that on Earth, everyone can hear you scream, and Platinum was going to take place on Earth, which would have been an actually awesome concept for a third movie. But as said above, it's set on a prison planet, and the alien would not come to Earth until the Alien vs. Predator crossovers. This is due to the script not being finished by the time the trailer was made. What's actually sad is that one of the trailers made the third film look like some amazing suspenseful action horror film. The actual movie has a lot less action and suspense until the third act. And most of the characters played by Charles Dance, and Lance Henriksen, and even the other cast members who play prisoners, give bad performances, as the prisoners and most of them are bland, boring, or unlikable. The characters even make very bad decisions and mistakes throughout the entire movie. There's a scene where Ripley finds Bishop in the junk room, and some of the inmates suddenly came in to attack her. And while Ripley and the other prisoners are spreading the amiprylline in the ventilation staffs in hopes to kill the xenomorph runner, Frank uses his detonator stick on the ladder, which was a terrible idea because the xenomorph comes back to kill him. And even though the movie tries to have emotional moments, most of the scenes just have more exposition rather than actually making you care. And while most of the special effects are decent, the special effects on the alien for the corridor chase look terrible. The superimposition into the live-action footage is bad enough to the point you can see hints of great green composition on the alien. The alien footage wasn't color corrected, hence the green hue, and the movements are jerky. Also, the alien has some of the worst CGI in any movie ever. In the first two, it was practical effects. It was like an actual puppet or a robotic machine. It actually looked terrifying in the first two. Any of the xenomorphs looked terrifying in the first two. In Alien 3, it's just some CGI creature that's feels like it was digitally added in. Because everything needed to be CGI around that time. However, I guess there's some good qualities that are passable for this film. Like the idea you have a prison space full of inmates affected by a fictional syndrome is kind of nifty, even if it's done horribly wrong. And Sigourney Weaver still gives a good performance as Ellen Ripley, and her performance is probably the only good thing about this movie, even though her character is completely ruined in this movie. And the scene where Ripley is sitting against the wall in fear of being close to the xenomorph runner is the only iconic thing about this movie. That's pretty much the one shot everybody thinks of whenever they think of this sequel. And Elliot Goldenall's score is very well done, and it does have suspenseful creepiness too, even if some of the soundtrack keeps cutting out. The cinematography isn't too bad, and even though despite this movie being inferior to the first two movies, there was an assembly cut. I did not see the assembly cut, guys, but apparently, from what I hear, the assembly cut fixed things and is considered to be better by the fanbase and critics alike, but it doesn't make it a masterpiece. Like, the cut apparently removes a chest burster when Ripley commits suicide at the end of the movie. Aside from the poor chroma keying, the special effects are decent, and design of Xenomorph as a dog-like creature is actually pretty cool. But despite the good qualities, I agree with Rambo Laugh for Life if he's watching this. This is one of the most insulting films I've ever watched, and it deserves to be on my list too of some of the worst movies or sequels ever made. So please, spare yourself and do not watch this movie at all. Unless you want the great ending of Aliens ruined for you. Then watch it. Unless you want to go to bed pissed, or turn off your TV pissed, and start breaking stuff because of this. Anyway, here's how I'm going to rank this movie.
I am going to give Alien 3 a 2.5 out of 10.
That's one bad one, but we're not out of the woods yet. We still got 3 more bad movies to... We still got another bad Alien sequel to go. And this one is minorly better to me, but it's still also a piece of shit too. Yeah, that'd be Resurrection, oh god. Even that movie was a piece of shit, but not as big of a piece of shit as this. But, till then, that'll be it for this dreaded rant. Thank y'all for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, then don't forget to like, subscribe to Movie Lover 120.